Hello everyone, welcome to War Analysis channel. Russia renewed attacks on Ukraine's energy facilities across the country on October 18th, killing civilians and leaving cities without water and power. President Volodymyr Zelensky said 30% of Ukraine's power stations have been destroyed since October 10th, when Russia intensified its strikes on critical infrastructure across the country. No space left for negotiations with Russian President Vladimir Putin's regime, Zelensky said on Twitter. But before we get into it, I'd really appreciate if you left a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Anyways, let's go. On October 18th, Russia launched 3 strikes on a remote neighborhood in Kyiv, hitting a power facility and killing 3 employees working at the site, according to Kyiv Mayor Vitaly Klitschko. Residents living in Troyeshchina, on Kyiv's left bank, were cut off from electricity and water, but repair is underway, DTEK Energy Company said. Dnipro was also struck twice, causing serious damage to energy infrastructure in the city, deputy head of the president's office Kyrylo Tymoshenko reported. A city east of Dnipro was left without water in the morning, according to the local authorities. Facing battlefield setbacks since August, Russia has highly likely gained a greater willingness to strike civilian infrastructure, such as energy systems, as well as military targets, according to the latest UK intelligence report. All regions across Ukraine should be prepared for possible power, water, and heat outages due to further Russian attacks on infrastructure, Tymoshenko said on TV. Everyone needs to prepare for a hard winter, Tymoshenko said, adding that the situation is critical. In this video, I will focus on the Luhansk region, and in particular the southern part of this region. Here the Russians attempted to make a massive counterattack in the direction of Lyman. However, they were fixed along the river, crushed from the flanks and brutally defeated. And here is how it happened. Last time I told you that the Russians decided to make this move because the Ukrainians were advancing faster than the Russians digging trenches along the Svatov-Kremina line. The Russians saw that their defense positions would not be ready by the time the Ukrainians started their offensive operation because they had already pulled their reserves towards Borova, Kharkivka and Drobisheva. In order to buy themselves more time, the Russians decided to push the Ukrainians towards the Jerebets River along the entire defense line. Their objective was to establish positions along this river to slow the Ukrainians down. Unfortunately for the Russians, not everything went according to their plan. The Russians managed to take only Torsky, Terny and Novosadov. The area of Ukrainian control around other settlements had decreased, but by maintaining control over Nevsky and Makivka, the Ukrainians reserved a notable foothold on the Jerebets River's eastern bank, allowing them to hit the Russians from the north. On top of that, the Russian defense position along this river had an intrinsic weakness because the Ukrainians had total control over the forest, which allowed them also to hit the Russians from the south. And the Ukrainians exploited this opportunity to the fullest. They immediately attacked the Russians in Torsky and pushed them out of that town. Since the Russians did not manage to establish control over Yampolivka, the Ukrainians in Torsky and Yampolivka joined forces. By leveraging these tactically important positions, the Ukrainians started to assault Terny from the south. Simultaneously, the Ukrainians attacked Novosadov from Nevsky. Here they reportedly used their mobile units to cross the river just to the south of Nevsky and immediately assault Novosadov. In order to develop their success, the Ukrainians reinforced this region from the reserves located in Kolodyazy and Ivanivka. When the reinforcements arrived, the Ukrainians also started to push the Russians east from Nevsky and Makivka, gradually restoring control over the region. By creating this additional buffer zone, the Ukrainians set the conditions for a more successful attack towards Novosadov. On the 14th of October, the Russians were completely defeated, and the Jerebets River's eastern bank was once again totally under Ukrainian control. Nonetheless, being crushed from the flanks turned out to be a weak reason for abandoning their positions. The Svatov-Kremina defense line still required a lot of additional work, which is why the Russians were not allowed to retreat altogether. It seems like the Russians still maintained their positions very close to the front line, which ensured tight control over the area close to these settlements. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video.